Maya had been living on the streets of downtown Chicago for 3 months when she found the wallet. The cold October wind cut through her thin jacket as she searched through a trash bin behind the luxury hotel where she sometimes found leftover food from their restaurant. Her stomach growled painfully, reminding her that she hadn't eaten anything substantial in 2 days. At 17, Maya had aged beyond her years. Her once bright eyes now carried the weight of survival, scanning every corner for danger or opportunity. She had been forced to leave her foster home after her 18th birthday approached, with no family to turn to and no money saved. The system that was supposed to protect her had failed, leaving her to navigate the harsh realities of street life alone. As she dug deeper into the garbage, her fingers touched something leather. She pulled out an expensive-looking black wallet, still warm from recent handling. Maya looked around nervously, checking if anyone was watching. The alley was empty except for a stray cat that had become her occasional companion. Opening the wallet carefully, Maya's eyes widened in disbelief. Inside were credit cards with the name Robert Harrison embossed in gold letters. But what caught her attention was the thick stack of $100 bills. She had never seen so much cash in one place. Her hands trembled as she counted. There was over $3,000. For a moment, Maya's mind raced with possibilities. This money could get her a warm place to stay for months, proper meals, maybe even help her get back on her feet. She could buy new clothes for job interviews, get cleaned up, and start rebuilding her life. The temptation was overwhelming, especially as another gust of cold wind reminded her of the harsh night ahead. But as Maya held the wallet, she remembered her grandmother's words from years ago, before the woman had passed away and Maya entered the foster system. "Maya, baby," her grandmother had said, "no matter how hard life gets, never take what isn't yours. Your character is the only thing that can't be taken away from you." Maya closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She knew what she had to do, even though every fiber of her being wanted to keep the money. She looked at the driver's license in the wallet and memorized the address. Robert Harrison lived in the wealthy part of town, about 40 minutes away if she walked. The hotel lobby was warm and elegant, filled with people in expensive suits and designer dresses. Maya felt embarrassed by her appearance. Her unwashed hair, torn jeans, and dirty sneakers made her stand out like a sore thumb. The security guard at the entrance eyed her suspiciously, but she managed to approach the front desk before being stopped. "Excuse me," Maya said quietly to the desk clerk. "I found this wallet outside. I think the person who lost it might be staying here." The clerk, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, took the wallet and examined the identification. "Mr. Harrison checked out about an hour ago," the clerk said, "but I can try to contact him. May I ask your name, dear?" Maya hesitated, not wanting to get involved more than necessary. "Just tell him someone found it and wanted to return it," she replied, already backing away toward the exit. The desk clerk watched Maya leave and noticed how the young girl shivered as she stepped back into the cold. Something about the girl's demeanor, the way she had handled the wallet with such care despite clearly needing money herself, struck the woman as remarkable. She made a note to herself to mention this when she called Mr. Harrison. Meanwhile, Maya walked back to her usual sleeping spot under a bridge, her stomach still empty but her conscience clear. She pulled her thin blanket around herself and tried to ignore the gnawing hunger. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, she knew she had done the right thing, even if it meant another cold, hungry night on the streets. Robert Harrison was in the middle of an important board meeting when his assistant knocked urgently on the conference room door. The 62-year-old tech billionaire had built his empire from nothing, starting with a small software company in his garage 30 years ago. Now Harrison Tech Solutions employed over 50,000 people worldwide, and Robert was known for his sharp business mind and demanding perfectionism. "Mr. Harrison, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the hotel called. Someone found your wallet," his assistant Jennifer whispered discreetly. Robert's hand immediately went to his jacket pocket, and his face showed alarm when he realized his wallet was indeed missing. Robert excused himself from the meeting and called the hotel immediately. "Yes, this is Robert Harrison. I understand someone found my wallet." The desk clerk, Mrs. Patterson, explained how a young homeless girl had brought it in. insisting only that it be returned to its rightful owner. Did she give her name? Any way to contact her? Robert asked. But Mrs. Patterson explained that the girl had left without providing any details. However, she did mention something that stuck with Robert: how the girl had looked hungry and cold, yet had handled the wallet with such honesty and care. Robert had grown up poor himself, the son of a single mother who worked 3 jobs to keep them afloat. He remembered the desperation of being truly hungry, of wearing the same clothes to school day after day. Those memories had driven him to succeed, but they had also made him somewhat cynical about people's motives. In his experience, most people would take advantage of such an opportunity. Driving back to retrieve his wallet, Robert couldn't stop thinking about this mysterious girl. When he arrived at the hotel, Mrs. Patterson described Maya in detail. Young, probably a teenager, clearly living on the streets but with an air of dignity despite her circumstances. She could have easily kept the money, Mrs. Patterson said. I've worked here for 15 years and I've never seen someone in her situation turn down that kind of opportunity. There was something special about that girl. Robert examined his wallet carefully. Everything was there. All $3,000 in cash, his credit cards, important business cards, even a photo of his late wife Sarah that he always carried. Nothing had been touched or taken. This puzzled him greatly. That evening, Robert couldn't concentrate on his usual routine. He kept thinking about the girl who had saved him from the major inconvenience of canceling cards and replacing important documents. But more than that, he was intrigued by her character. In his world of corporate dealings, he had become accustomed to people trying to gain something from him, whether through business deals, charity requests, or social climbing. Robert decided to find this girl. He called his head of security, Marcus, a former detective who had worked for the Harrison family for over a decade. Marcus, I need you to help me locate someone. A homeless teenage girl, probably stays downtown near the Grandview Hotel. Marcus was surprised by the unusual request but agreed to help. What did she do, sir? Do you want me to involve the police? Nothing like that, Robert replied. She did something remarkable, and I want to thank her properly. The next morning, Marcus began his search. He contacted local homeless shelters, soup kitchens, and social workers who worked with the street population. The downtown area had a significant homeless community, but finding one specific person without a name would be challenging. Meanwhile, Maya was struggling through another difficult day. The autumn weather was getting colder, and she had developed a persistent cough. She spent her morning looking for returnable bottles and cans, managing to collect enough to buy a small cup of coffee and a day-old donut. As Maya sat in a small park, trying to warm her hands around the coffee cup, she noticed an unusual amount of activity. A well-dressed man was talking to various homeless individuals, showing them something on his phone. Maya became nervous, thinking it might be police or social services trying to clear out the area. She quickly gathered her few belongings and moved to a different location, unaware that the man was actually showing people her description and asking if anyone had seen her. Marcus had been searching for 3 days, visiting every place where homeless youth might gather. But Maya's cautious nature and frequent movement made her difficult to track. Robert grew more determined with each passing day. Something about this girl's selfless act had touched him deeply, reminding him of the goodness that still existed in the world despite all the cynicism he had developed over the years. Maya's cough had gotten worse over the past week, and she was finding it harder to stay warm during the increasingly cold nights. She had been avoiding her usual spots after noticing the well-dressed man asking questions about her. Street life had taught her to be suspicious of anyone showing too much interest in finding her. On a particularly gray Thursday morning, Maya was sitting outside a small bakery, hoping to catch the scent of fresh bread to ease her hunger pangs. She was exhausted from another sleepless night and didn't notice the black sedan that pulled up across the street. Robert Harrison stepped out of the car, having decided to personally join the search after Marcus had been unsuccessful for nearly a week. He was dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, trying not to look intimidating. His driver remained in the car as Robert walked slowly down the street, observing the various people who called this area home. When Robert spotted Maya sitting against the bakery wall, He immediately recognized her from Mrs. Patterson's detailed description. She was smaller and younger looking than he had expected, and his heart clenched when he saw her violent coughing fit. Despite her obvious illness and difficult circumstances, there was something resilient in the way she held herself. Robert approached slowly, not wanting to frighten her. "Excuse me," he said gently, crouching down to her eye level. "Are you the young lady who returned a wallet to the Grandview Hotel about a week ago?" Maya's eyes widened with panic. She had been right to be cautious. This man had been looking for her. Her first instinct was to run, but her weakened state from poor nutrition and illness made her hesitate. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said defensively, pulling her jacket tighter around herself. No, Robert said quickly, raising his hands in a peaceful gesture. "You absolutely didn't do anything wrong. Quite the opposite. That was my wallet you returned, and I've been trying to find you to thank you." Maya studied his face carefully, looking for signs of deception. Living on the streets had made her an expert at reading people's intentions. What she saw in Robert's eyes was genuine gratitude, but also something else. A sadness that seemed familiar to her. "You don't need to thank me," Maya said quietly. "I just did what anyone should do." Robert shook his head. "But that's exactly the point. Not everyone would have done what you did, especially not someone in your situation. You could have kept that money, and no one would have blamed you." Maya was quiet for a moment, then another coughing fit overtook her. Robert noticed how pale she looked and how her hands shook slightly. "When's the last time you had a proper meal?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. "I'm fine," Maya replied. But her stomach chose that moment to growl loudly, betraying her words. Robert stood up and extended his hand to her. "My name is Robert Harrison. Would you please let me buy you breakfast? It's the least I can do to thank you for your honesty." Maya hesitated. Every instinct told her to be wary of strangers, especially wealthy ones who might want something from her. But she was so tired and hungry, and this man seemed different from others who had tried to help her in the past, people who usually had their own agendas. "Just breakfast," Maya said finally, accepting his hand to help her stand. "And then we go our separate ways." Robert nodded, though he was already forming other plans in his mind. They walked to a nearby diner, and Robert noticed how Maya kept glancing around nervously as if expecting trouble to appear at any moment. Inside the warm diner, Maya ordered carefully, just pancakes and orange juice, nothing too expensive. But Robert insisted she order more, and eventually she agreed to add eggs and bacon to her meal. As they waited for the food, Robert tried to make conversation. "What's your name?" he asked gently. Maya hesitated again before answering. "Maya. That's a beautiful name. How long have you been living on the streets, Maya?" Maya's walls went back up immediately. "Look, Mr. Harrison, I appreciate the meal, but I don't need a lecture or someone trying to fix my life. I've heard it all before from social workers and police officers." Robert held up his hands again. "I'm not here to lecture you or fix anything. I'm just curious about the person who did something so remarkable. You see, Maya, I haven't always been wealthy. I grew up poor, and I remember what it felt like to be hungry and desperate. What you did, returning that wallet, it reminded me that there are still genuinely good people in this world." When their food arrived, Robert watched as Maya tried to eat slowly and politely despite clearly being ravenous. Her manners impressed him. Someone had taught her well, even if life had dealt her a difficult hand. As Maya ate, she began to relax slightly. Robert didn't push for more information, instead sharing stories about his own difficult childhood and how his mother had instilled values in him that guided his business decisions even now. "Your mother sounds like she was a wonderful woman," Maya said softly. "She was. She always said that how you treat people when you have nothing says everything about who you really are." Robert paused, looking directly at Maya. "I think she would have been very impressed by you." After finishing her meal, Maya felt more human than she had in weeks. The warm food had given her energy, and Robert's gentle demeanor had allowed her to lower her guard slightly. However, She still expected this encounter to end like all the others, with empty promises and good intentions that never materialized into real help. "Maya," Robert said carefully, "I'd like to ask you something, and I want you to know there's no pressure to answer if you're not comfortable." Maya tensed slightly but nodded for him to continue. "How did you end up on the streets? You're clearly intelligent and well-mannered. Something tells me you haven't always lived this way." Maya was quiet for a long moment, stirring her orange juice with the straw. Finally, she looked up at Robert. "I was in foster care most of my life. When you turn 18, they basically kick you out. I had nowhere to go, no money saved, and no family to help. I tried staying with friends for a while, but that didn't work out. Been on the streets for about 4 months now." Robert's heart ached hearing her story. "What about education? Were you in school?" "I was a senior in high school when everything fell apart. I was actually doing pretty well. Had a 3.7 GPA and was planning to apply for college scholarships." Maya's voice became bitter. "But it's hard to focus on homework when you don't know where you're going to sleep at night." "What subjects were you good at?" Robert asked, genuinely interested. Maya's eyes lit up for the first time during their conversation. "Math and science, mostly. I loved computer programming classes. I used to spend hours after school in the computer lab, learning different programming languages. My teacher said I had real talent for it." Robert leaned forward, intrigued. This information changed everything. "Maya, what I'm about to say might sound crazy, but I want you to hear me out completely before you respond." Maya looked at him suspiciously. "Okay. I own a technology company. We're always looking for talented people, and from what you've told me, you have the foundation for a very promising career in tech. But more importantly, what you did with my wallet shows me you have integrity, something that's much rarer and more valuable than technical skills." Robert paused to let this sink in before continuing. "I'd like to offer you an opportunity. Not charity, but a real chance to build a life for yourself. I can arrange for you to finish high school, and if you're willing to work hard, I'll provide job training in our company." Maya stared at him in disbelief. "Why would you do that for me? You don't even know me." "Because I believe people should be judged by their character, not their circumstances. And because I remember what it was like to need someone to believe in me." Robert's voice became more earnest. "My first big break came when someone took a chance on me. I've never forgotten that feeling, and I've tried to pay it forward whenever possible." Maya shook her head. "This is too good to be true. There has to be a catch." "What do you really want from me?" Robert understood her skepticism. "I want you to succeed, Maya. That's it. No strings attached, no hidden agenda. Just a chance for you to prove to yourself what I already see, that you have incredible potential. But what if I fail? What if I can't do it?" Maya's voice was small, revealing her deep-seated fears and insecurities. "Then you'll still be better off than you are right now," Robert replied. "But I don't think you'll fail. Do you know how I can tell? Because when you were hungry and desperate, you still chose to do the right thing. That tells me everything I need to know about your character." Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes. She had been strong for so long, handling every challenge thrown at her way. But Robert's kindness and belief in her was overwhelming. "I haven't had anyone believe in me since my grandmother died when I was 12. "Well, you do now," Robert said firmly. "But Maya, I need you to understand something important. This isn't charity. If you accept my offer, I'll expect you to work harder than you've ever worked before. You'll need to catch up on your education while learning job skills. It won't be easy." Maya wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. For the first time in months, she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. "Mr. Harrison, if you're really serious about this, then yes. I want to try. I want to prove that I can do something with my life." Robert smiled, the first genuine smile he had felt in weeks. "Excellent. Now let's start with the basics. You need a safe place to stay, medical attention for that cough, and some proper clothes. I know a family who runs a transitional home for young people. They're good people who will help you get back on your feet." As they left the diner together, Maya couldn't believe how dramatically her life had changed in just 2 hours. The same streets that had seemed so hopeless that morning now looked different. like a place she was just passing through on her way to something better. Robert called his assistant from the car. "Jennifer, I need you to contact the Riverside Youth Home and tell them I'm sending over a very special young lady who needs their help. Also, set up an appointment with Dr. Martinez. I want her to get a complete medical checkup." Maya listened to Robert making these arrangements and realized that this was really happening. Someone was actually going to help her, not because they pitied her, but because they saw something valuable in her. 6 months later, Maya could hardly recognize the person she had been when she first met Robert Harrison. The Riverside Youth Home had become her sanctuary, providing not just a warm bed and regular meals, but also the emotional support she desperately needed to begin healing from years of instability. Mrs. Chen, the director of the home, had taken Maya under her wing immediately. She understood the unique challenges that aged-out foster children faced and had helped Maya work through the trauma and trust issues that had built up over the years. "Healing isn't linear," Mrs. Chen had told Maya during one of their counseling sessions. "Some days will be harder than others, but every step forward counts." Maya had thrown herself into her studies with a determination that impressed everyone around her. She was completing her high school diploma through an accelerated program while simultaneously learning basic business skills and computer programming. Robert had arranged for her to have access to the same online learning platforms that his company used to train new employees. The medical attention Robert had arranged revealed that Maya's persistent cough was actually early-stage pneumonia, which could have become life-threatening if left untreated. Dr. Martinez had been amazed by Maya's resilience. "I've never seen someone bounce back so quickly," she told Robert during one of Maya's follow-up appointments. "This young woman has incredible inner strength." What surprised Maya most was how Robert had kept his promise about this not being charity. He visited regularly, but not to check up on her. Instead, he came to challenge her. He would bring real problems from his company and ask for her input, treating her ideas with the same respect he showed his experienced employees. "Maya, we're having trouble with the user interface on our new mobile app," Robert had said during one of his visits. "The feedback from our test groups is that it's too complicated. What do you think?" He had shown her the prototype, and Maya had spent hours analyzing it, ultimately suggesting several improvements that the development team later implemented. These interactions boosted Maya's confidence tremendously. She began to see herself, not as someone who needed to be rescued, but as someone who had valuable contributions to make. Robert was careful to always frame their discussions as collaborations rather than lessons, making Maya feel like a peer rather than a charity case. Maya's transformation wasn't just professional, it was personal as well. Having stable housing and nutrition had improved her physical health dramatically. Her hair had regained its shine, her skin had cleared up, and she had put on healthy weight. But more importantly, the constant stress and hypervigilance that came from living on the streets had begun to fade. She had also formed genuine friendships for the first time in years. Sarah, another resident at the home who was studying to be a nurse, had become like a sister to Maya. "You know what I admire about you?" Sarah had told her one evening as they studied together. "You never act bitter about what happened to you. You just keep moving forward." But Maya's biggest transformation was in how she viewed herself and her future. The hopelessness that had consumed her during those months on the street had been replaced by ambitious goals and concrete plans. She had decided she wanted to study computer science in college, with the ultimate goal of starting her own tech company focused on solving problems for disadvantaged communities. Robert was amazed by Maya's progress when he reviewed her work with the education coordinator. "She's completing coursework at twice the normal pace," the coordinator reported, "and her programming skills are already at an intermediate level. I've never seen anyone pick up these concepts so quickly." During one of their regular meetings, Robert presented Maya with an opportunity that made her heart race with excitement and terror. "Maya, I've been thinking about your future. You're going to graduate from the program here in 2 months and you'll be ready to start college in the fall. But I'd also like to offer you a part-time position at my company as a junior developer." Maya stared at him in shock. "You mean a real job? Like actually working for your company?" "Absolutely real," Robert confirmed. You'd be working 20 hours a week while you attend college. The salary would be enough to cover your tuition and living expenses, plus you'd be gaining practical experience in the field you want to pursue. Maya felt overwhelmed with gratitude, but also with something else: pride. She had worked incredibly hard to get to this point, and while she acknowledged that Robert had provided the opportunity, she knew that her own determination and effort had made this moment possible. "Mr. Harrison," Maya said, her voice steady despite her emotions. "6 months ago, I thought my life was over. I had given up on myself. But you saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. I don't know how to thank you for that." Robert smiled warmly. "Maya, you've already thanked me in the best way possible, by proving that my faith in you was justified. But I need you to understand something important. I provided the opportunity, but everything you've accomplished has been through your own hard work and determination. Don't ever forget that." As Maya left their meeting that day, she walked past the downtown area where she had once lived on the streets. Instead of feeling ashamed or sad, she felt proud. She had survived the worst period of her life, and now she was thriving. More importantly, she knew that her experience had given her a unique perspective that would help her make a difference in other people's lives someday. 3 years had passed since that cold October morning when Maya found Robert's wallet. Now 21 years old, Maya stood in front of the mirror in her small but comfortable apartment, adjusting her graduation cap. Today was her college graduation day, and she was graduating summa cum laude with a degree in computer science. Her apartment walls were covered with certificates and awards she had earned during her college years. She had been inducted into the National Honor Society, won several programming competitions, and had even published a research paper on using technology to help homeless youth access social services. But the item she treasured most was a framed photo of herself, Robert, Mrs. Chen, and Sarah, taken on her first day of work at Harrison Tech Solutions. Maya had excelled in her role as a junior developer, quickly earning promotions and the respect of her colleagues. What her co-workers didn't know was her background. She had chosen to keep her past private, not out of shame, but because she wanted to be judged solely on her abilities and contributions. Her phone buzzed with a text from Robert. "Proud of you today, Maya. Sarah would have loved to see this." Robert's late wife had always been passionate about education and helping young people, and Maya had learned that her scholarship fund was one of many charitable endeavors Robert had established in Sarah's memory. As Maya walked across the campus, where she had spent the last 3 years, she reflected on how much her life had changed. The frightened, hungry girl who had once slept under bridges now owned her own car, had a substantial savings account, and had just accepted a full-time senior developer position at a prestigious tech startup. But Maya's transformation went beyond material success. She had learned to trust people again, to form healthy relationships, and most importantly, to believe in her own worth. The therapy sessions Mrs. Chen had encouraged her to attend had helped her process the trauma of her childhood and develop healthy coping mechanisms. At the graduation ceremony, Maya scanned the crowd until she spotted Robert, Mrs. Chen, and Sarah sitting together in the third row. These 3 people had become her chosen family, supporting her through every challenge and celebrating every victory. When her name was called and she walked across the stage to receive her diploma, their cheers were the loudest in the auditorium. After the ceremony, Maya was approached by Dean Martinez, who had become a mentor during her college years. "Maya, I have some exciting news. The university wants to offer you a full scholarship to pursue your master's degree. Your research on using technology for social good has attracted attention from several major foundations." Maya was honored but had already made other plans. "Thank you, Dean Martinez, but I've decided to take a different path for now. I want to get some real-world experience before continuing my education." What Maya didn't mention was the business plan she had been secretly developing, a non-profit organization that would provide technology training and job placement services for homeless youth. She had been meeting with investors and had already secured initial funding from an anonymous donor, who turned out to be Robert, though she wouldn't learn this until later. That evening, at the graduation celebration dinner Robert had organized, Maya stood up to make a speech. The small group included everyone who had played a role in her transformation: Robert, Mrs. Chen, Sarah, Dr. Martinez, and several mentors from the university and Harrison Tech Solutions. 3 years ago, I thought returning a wallet was just the right thing to do, Maya began, her voice strong and confident. I had no idea that one small act of honesty would completely change my life. But what I've learned is that it wasn't really about the wallet at all. It was about the kind of person I chose to be in that moment. She looked directly at Robert. Mr. Harrison, you didn't just give me opportunities. You gave me something much more valuable. You gave me the chance to see myself as someone worth investing in. And Mrs. Chen, you helped me understand that my past doesn't define my future. Maya paused, composing herself before continuing. But I also want everyone to understand something important. While I'm grateful for all the help I received, my story isn't just about someone rescuing me. It's about what happens when someone who refuses to give up on themselves meets people who believe in second chances. As the evening wound down, Robert pulled Maya aside for a private conversation. Maya, I have something to tell you. Do you remember that first day when I said I wanted to pay forward the help someone had given me when I was young? Maya nodded. That person was my high school computer science teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez. She saw potential in a poor kid from the wrong side of town and helped me get a scholarship to college. She passed away 5 years ago, but before she died, she made me promise to always look for young people who just needed someone to believe in them. Robert's eyes were bright with emotion. Maya, you've exceeded every expectation I had. But more than that, you've reminded me why Mrs. Rodriguez's lesson was so important. You've become proof that investing in people's character pays dividends that money can't measure. 6 months later, Maya stood in the lobby of her new office building, watching as the sign for Second Chance's Tech Academy was being installed. The organization she had founded was already serving its first class of homeless and at-risk youth, providing them with the same types of opportunities that had transformed her own life. On her desk was the business card Robert had given her on that first day. She had kept it as a reminder of how quickly life could change when someone chose to see possibilities instead of problems. Next to it was a letter she had received that morning from Marcus, her first graduate, who had just been hired as a junior developer at a local startup. As Maya looked out her window at the city skyline, she thought about the girl she had been just a few years ago. That frightened teenager sleeping under a bridge could never have imagined the life Maya now lived. But she also knew that girls' strength and determination had been essential ingredients in this transformation. Maya's phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was a social worker calling about a 16-year-old boy who had aged out of foster care and was living on the streets. He's very bright, the social worker explained, but he's lost hope. We thought maybe you could talk to him. Maya smiled as she grabbed her keys. I'll be right there, she said. She knew exactly what she would tell him, the same thing Robert had told her 3 years ago. Sometimes the most important thing you can give someone isn't money or opportunities, but the belief that they are worth investing in. And sometimes that belief is enough to change everything.